you wanted to provide any comments, but I thought that information might be helpful for the council as it gets into deliberations.
Yeah, I just wanted to add two things. One, as it relates to the proposal related to the overhire with the firefighters, we are keenly aware of our responsibility and our obligation to meet and confer with our Firefighters Association. Should the council think that this is a proposal that you want to pursue, and implementation of that is dependent on the meet and confer process. And so it turns out from a process perspective to be a little bit of a chicken and egg question in terms of, do we get a sense from the council whether you think that this is a good idea and you're prepared to add the positions, because that is a council responsibility and obligation, and then we would pursue the process that we're legally obligated to pursue. In addition to which, we feel a moral obligation to engage our employees in those discussions as well. And so we would have every intention of having those detailed, nitty-gritty conversations with the firefighters. We have the acting fire chief who's here to talk about the analysis that was done, as well as the HR director who can talk through the process if the council has any further questions. And then lastly, I just wanted to acknowledge the feedback about the financial backbone system, the ERP, and weighing that as an administrative cost and something that goes to the internal operations of the city, as opposed to something that is viewed, at least from a perception perspective, as not being something that is dedicated towards achieving objectives for our residents and our community. And I totally understand that and respect that perspective. We had long and hard debates about the size and scale and need and timing of coming forward with that recommendation. And we have some suggestions for you if the council wants to pursue both that proposal as well as putting money aside for the acquisition of a park. But I just wanted to express our understanding that there is a balancing act that had to go into making the request and coming forward with such a big ask at this time. And I totally respect that there's differences of opinions about it, and you know, how that will play itself out, we'll look forward to. But we feel like that's a critical success factor for the city to move forward long into the future.
Yeah, I would like clarification. With the letter, I'm concerned, by the letter that we got from the firefighters union. They're saying there are now 3 full-time firefighter position vacancies which haven't been filled, and then the proposal is to eliminate the budget line for overtime and instead hire 3 more firefighters. Is that consistent with what we're looking at? And do we have are we in the process of hiring firefighters?
Yes, I'd like to introduce Acting Fire Chief Bob Bisson. He's a battalion chief who's here on behalf of the fire chief. And just so that you know, he hasn't seen this letter, so nor had I.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you. Madam Mayor and Council, Bob Bisson, battalion chief for the fire department here in the city. The letter that was presented tonight and read by an employee, I had not seen beforehand, and so I can't counsel you on the merits of what they're trying to explain in that. What I am prepared tonight to do is to explain to you what the merits are of the chief's proposal and why we're why he's asking to do the overhire as stated in the budget process. Your question regarding current staffing, currently we have 3 vacancies on the department, regular full-time positions that are currently not filled by an employee, and there is an ongoing hiring process. The number of people that would be hired out of the current process still remains to be decided upon. One of the factors that will yield the final number is the question before you tonight. Whether or not we hire 3 and fill out our existing department staffing roster or add to it by another 3, which is the request that the chief is making, is for you to decide tonight. The chief's proposal and the background analysis on it as to the fact of how is it that hiring 3 more people, more employees, actually is a cost-neutral subject. And the reason is because currently, in our staffing model, we have no extra employees hired above and beyond the daily minimum staffing levels. It's like having a baseball team with no extra players. Every day we field a team on duty of 14 personnel to meet the city's needs. That's our minimum staffing number. There are no currently extra employees on any given day that can fill in for people when they're absent due to reasons such as vacation leave, holiday leave, or away for training, any number of normal leave types. And so that is currently filled with overtime. And the cost of overtime has changed over the many years. There are quite a few years ago when these issues have come up before. The idea of the cost factor was penciled out, and it was actually cheaper to pay existing overtime to existing employees to cover that need. The pension reform has been a major factor in resulting in why that no longer is the case. And in fact, new employees hired at the rank of firefighter, which is our entry-level position, are in fact slightly cheaper. Now, the number that makes a proper balance between staffing needs on a daily basis and a total employment roster, currently the number of adding 3 extra personnel to our positions in the department is the number that it's a comfortable number, it's a functional number that does yield no additional cost. The need that the firefighters union presented tonight, I can't exactly address the confusion in that statement. I was slightly confused by the point that was being made as well. And so if you have further questions on our existing staffing numbers and the background of the proposal, I can continue to answer your question.
Madam Mayor and members of
No,
council,
I have to say that I don't understand. I mean, what you're telling me is that the department does not intend to leave the 3 already budgeted firefighter positions unfilled and instead hire 3 over.
That is not a correct statement.
That is
no,
not.
We currently have 3 unfilled positions we intend to hire.
Okay.
We would additionally like to add 3 more full-time personnel to the entire roster of the agency.
Okay.
And that is the request that's before you, those 3 additional. The speech that addressed the current 3 not being filled, I believe that was either an incorrect statement or a misunderstood statement on their part, and I can't address what the point that was trying to be made by the other speaker.
Okay, thank you. John Ashba, did you have questions or want to start deliberation?
Yeah, I don't want to start deliberations. I think it's already getting pretty late. A lot of people have been here for quite a while. And I'd like to start out by saying that I'm still of the opinion on the question of the overhire that it's probably the least important thing we have to talk about this evening. I know a lot of our firefighters who may be tuning in on this are very concerned with it. And the fact is, all we're talking about is shifting some numbers around as far as FTEs and whether the budget amount is indicated as overtime versus staffing costs. And I'm really kind of indifferent about it myself. I would like to see this resolved as part of our ongoing negotiations or as a separate track, meet and confer with firefighters before the council has to deal with it. I can see some advantages to what's being proposed. I'm glad to hear from Battalion Chief Bisson that it's driven primarily by changes to our pension obligations associated with new hires. And I'm glad to hear that, in fact, it is possible by going from 42 positions to 45 that we will be looking at some economies there. And yet, I also realize that many of the firefighters currently among those 42 may be the first ones to be volunteering for these positions. And so I'm still unclear, really, as to whether this council should say, no, sorry, we don't need you to be volunteering for these overtime positions any longer, and we're going to go with full-time people. I think the department as a whole would probably benefit from having the full-time people come aboard, but I guess I'm spending a lot more time talking about that than I wanted to in the first place, and let me go on to some other items.
If we could just maybe address that.
You want to just go and
I personally
deliberate on
feel I don't have enough information to make a decision on
Yeah.
this issue. I just don't feel like
it? Let's see what some others feel here, maybe.
I feel like deferring it until the 3 positions are filled would make sense, or having it come back to council as a separate item, since it doesn't have any cost implications. I don't feel like, I personally would have trouble at this point voting on this issue.
So might we give you some additional information?
Sure.
Just so that you understand the implications of that? action? or-
Madam